On any given night in our city, about 2,000 Toronto youth are homeless.
When I was in grade 10, I came home and the house was empty. There was a couple pieces of furniture. There was some food in the fridge. My stuff was left largely untouched, and that of my sister too, who's 2 years younger than me. It was a scene I've never seen before. Not sure what to do, and this being the 13th place I've moved, probably since my parents were divorced when I was 4. I was not strongly rooted in the community. I had some friends from school, but I wasn't comfortable to the extent where I could be like, hey, my mom is missing in action. Is there any way you could help?
That's Nicholas Beckett, who was featured on the Homelessness in Hiding podcast. Nicholas, thankfully, is now housed, and he now helps others struggling on the streets. Proof of how homeless youth can thrive when they have support. Dagma Koyi is the founder of the Rest Center, which helps youth find shelter in Peel. Good morning.
Good morning.
Dagma, youth homelessness, it's a result of complex issues, but I'm wondering some of the stories. What are you hearing from youth and how they ended up on the streets? I know every story is unique.
Definitely every story is unique. And the problem with youth homelessness, we have not yet, I think, unraveled the different situations that cause or youth to stream into homelessness. And just of recent, for example, at the Rest Center, we have been tracking some trends of seeing groups of siblings enter into homelessness. So I'll give you an example. We had 3 siblings who lost their mom, unfortunately. And the mother being the only breadwinner of the family, guess what happened? When the mother was gone, those young people were unable to pay the rent, and the landlord decided to evict them. And so these particular young people, we literally picked them up with their bags on the doorstep without a place to stay. We're seeing situations where, groups of siblings migrating to Canada, completely neglected by the parents who are being incarcerated, leaving groups of siblings without the source of the main income that sustains the rent, and that also leading to homelessness. So the stories are unique. So you're correct in saying that.
And so, Dagma, how do you ensure the kids, can afford the housing that your program offers them? Because we know the affordability crisis is very, very big in our city.
Absolutely. And unaffordability also is a major barrier to being able to be housed in our cities today. And so our Bridge of Hope program, with the help of some of our donors, we are able to provide rental subsidies to young people so that it can alleviate some of the financial barriers to obtaining housing. But for a number of youth, that can only go a little bit of the way. And so we have a gross number of youth coming into the program where financial readiness impedes their ability to acquire housing. And financial readiness looks like we can provide a housing subsidy, but you still do require to have some sort of basic form of income to be able to pay the base rent. And also having the first and the last month rent is also something that is also critical to getting them housed.
Dagma, what more can governments do to help the problems, the challenges of homelessness amongst young people, our youth here in our city?
On all fronts, I do believe that all levels of government should work together in partnership to really curb this crisis, trying to put together more affordable, and I say, deeply affordable housing. I think rent-based income housing, subsidies, again. So for example, just in the GTA, you would have to wait about 10 years to be able to receive a rental subsidy. REST is doing its part by advocating with our donors and funders to be able to provide just a minimum subsidy to you. So if more funding can be placed into things like subsidies, so youth who are vulnerable can actually acquire housing, that would go a long way. Partnering more with the sector and with service providers like ourselves, because putting youth in housing, it's not all they need to also be housed. They also need the supports to sustain their independent living. And so that's why our program advocates for housing and extensive wraparound supports to help to foster and help youth transition into independence. So partnering with organizations like ourselves to ensure that those services continue or are provided in the community is also essential.
Dagma, I appreciate you making time for us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Dagma Koyi is the founder and executive director of Rest Centers, which is in Brampton. Here's Jennifer.